Good afternoon. This is the LinguaFolio for North Carolina in 2019-2020. This broadcast is part of the World Languages webinar series in collaboration with English as a Second Language. We will include information about LinguaFolio as a formative assessment tool for language learners, details about the new LinguaFolio web pages, and the resources posted for all educators in the state, and specifics about the free access to LinguaFolio in all formats: Word documents, PDF, and LinguaFolio Online LFO with the GoTo app. This 2-hour webinar will be broadcasted twice. We had the first session Thursday, October the 3rd, and we have today the second session, Wednesday, October the 9th. All the materials will be shared, the presentation slides, along with a recording of the broadcast. We are going to post this information in the World Languages webinar series webpage approximately 1 week before after the webinar. So this is the NCDPI LinguaFolio team. Dr. Anne-Marie Ganter is with us today. She is the World Languages consultant, and Satli Stocks, the ESL Title III consultant. So this is the agenda we're going to discuss today. We're going to have a welcome and overview of LinguaFolio in North Carolina from the beginnings to the present time, LinguaFolio webpage and resources, free access to LinguaFolio, the new LinguaFolio Cafe, a LinguaFolio sponsorship project. Then, if we have some time, we offer a Q&A section where you can ask about the process to access LFO and all the different questions that you may have by the end of this session. So we're going to start with a poll question today. We want to know who has joined us. We share this with World Languages and ESL teachers, but we want to know who is here today. So please, if we can run the poll, tell us if you are an ESL teacher, a World Language teacher, a teacher of both worlds, ESL and World Languages, or a school administrator. Or if you are not in either one of these 4 categories, please select other. So if this is the first time that you participate in one of our webinars, when we have these poll questions, remember that you can click on the screen and you will be able to select one of the answers. Who is here today? ESL teachers, World Languages teachers, both, school administrators, or others? So we see some answers are coming in. We're going to wait a few more seconds before we close the poll. Okay, I think we can close the poll. Okay, perfect. So we have 38% of participants today are ESL teachers. Oh, wow, majority. We have 29% World Language teachers, 8% in both worlds, ESL and World Languages. We have some school administrators and 17% other. That's a large number. So we will be interested to see later who is with us, and we're going to have some share outs and discussions, and you will have the opportunity to share what is the role that you have in your district. So we're going to run the second poll. And this time we want to know, where are you located? In which area in the state? Are you an educator in the Eastern region, Districts 1 and 3, Northern Region, Districts 5 and 7, Southern Region, Districts 2 and 4, Western Region, Districts 6 and 8, or are you an educator working in multiple regions? So if we can run the poll, you will see the different options. So please select the option that is close to you. Where is your school district located? Where are you located? Okay, if you see the options on the screen, please vote. We're going to wait a few more seconds before we close our poll. Okay, I think we can close our poll. And I see in the questions box that we have some educators, some from out of the state. Maybe they want to learn what we're doing in North Carolina with LinguaFolio. So thank you for joining us. And I see that you work, this educator out of state works at NCBPS. So that's great. Thank you for joining us. And also educators from a bilingual school in the Exceptional Children Department. This is great. So thank you for being here. Now that I see our poll, we have teachers 37% from the Eastern region, districts 1 and 3, 26% from the Northern region, 26, oh, that's tight, and from the Southern region. And the Western region, we have just 5%, and educators working in multiple regions, another 5%. So again, thank you for being with us today. This is great. If you want to share something, feel free to always share in the question box, and we will read your questions as we progress in the webinar. So we're going to look at the next slide. It's another poll. Oops, okay, that's another poll. And we want to learn more about who you are. So again, if you can start the poll, you will see the options in the screen, and you will select if you are a teacher implementing LinguaFolio in your classroom. Maybe you have already used LinguaFolio, or you were part of the pilot cohort last year. You are a leader gathering resources for local presentations. Maybe you want to learn what we are doing in the state and you want to share this in your district for future use. Educators earning a contact hour for licensure renewal. An individual getting a question answered, or anonymous on a fall afternoon. Someone who was just, okay, let's see what they're going to talk about. So now that we see the poll on the screen, let's select one of these options. Or if you have more than one option that apply to you, please feel free to select all those options. So we're going to wait a little more time, just a few more seconds, and we close our poll. So you may select as many options as you want. Okay, we may close the poll. Okay, so we have 21% teachers implementing LinguaFolio. Yay, that's great. We hope that we can hear about this experience later during the webinar. So we have 42% leader gathering resources for local presentations. This is wonderful because when we have leaders, administrators that join, and then we see how they build capacity in their districts, sharing all the information that we have, that's wonderful, and that impacts our student success. So we have 38% educator earning a contact hour for licensure renewal. That's a large number in the audience. So I'm going to read something that is very important for you all. So please remember that contact hours we offer some contact hours, and to accumulate for a CEU, this can be earned by all the participants in the webinar today. So today's webinar is 2 hours long, so 2 contact hours or 0.2 CEUs can be earned. Please save the email receipt you are going to get from the GoToWebinar system to document these contact hours towards a CEU for licensure renewal. So once you have completed today, we close the webinar, you are going to receive an email. So please keep this email for your records. This is a content activity for world languages. And note that all local LEAs and districts or charter schools must approve professional development offerings. This is also a content activity for ESL teachers. If you have any questions, just send us an email and we will help you with this. In addition, a recording is being made of today's webinar, and the archive, including these PowerPoint slides, will be available for local training approximately 1 week from today. So you will have all these materials to use for your professional development, and these can be resources used locally with contact hours documented by the school or the district. So thank you for being here today. And we see 21% individuals getting a question answers. Maybe you have some information about LinguaFolio and you just want to verify and get more details about it. And then we have 8% anonymous enjoying a pumpkin spice latte this afternoon. So wow, I'm jealous. I wish we could have some coffee right now. But okay, thank you very much. We're going to continue. And now, if I can change the slide. There you go. I want to invite Dr. Ganter and Marie to help us with an activity, the LinguaFolio Scavenger Hunt.
Thank you, Sally. Well, now that we know kind of who you are and where you're coming from, we want to find out also what you know about LinguaFolio. So we put together this LinguaFolio scavenger hunt for you. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay.
Great. So we thank you for joining us and sharing with us a little bit about yourselves, where you're located and that kind of thing. And we want to begin our webinar today with this activity, the LinguaFolio scavenger hunt, so that you can kind of share with us what you already know about LinguaFolio, and also that we can talk about some of the details with LinguaFolio in a way that meets your needs. So we're going to ask you to hunt for the answers to these questions by going to the LinguaFolio page at bit.ly/NC-LinguaFolio. There's just 5 questions here, and you'll notice, by the way, that this slide is also a handout on your control panel. So if you go over to your control panel to the handout section, you'll see that the scavenger hunt is there. You can click on it. It's a PDF file. So that way the bit.ly link will work really easily for you, and you'll have all 5 questions in front of you. Those questions are: what is LinguaFolio and what 3 purposes does it serve? Which state standards is LinguaFolio aligned to? How many parts does LinguaFolio have and what are they called? What kind of LinguaFolio classroom materials are available and in what formats? And what additional resources are available for LinguaFolio? So go ahead and do your LinguaFolio scavenger hunt. Use that link to go right out to our NC LinguaFolio webpage on the Google site and start finding your answers. You do not have to put your answers in the questions box because we'll have a way to share them when we get back together. We're going to give you 5 minutes to do that scavenger hunt, and then we'll get back together and share our answers in a way within the webinar. All right, go ahead and we will remain quiet while you do your scavenger hunt and then come back together in 5 minutes.
If it's easier for you, I just copied the link in the chat so you can click on the link and then you will have access. Because sometimes the bit.ly links, if you don't type exactly, those are case sensitive. So if it will be easier if you copy, we just share the link bit.ly/NC LinguaFolio in the chat box.
We're at about 5 minutes. Go ahead and take about another minute, and when you're ready to share or go over the answers, go ahead and raise your hand electronically. I'll be looking for raised hands electronically to know that we're ready to go. All right, raise your hand when you get back from finding your answer to the scavenger hunt so that I know we're ready to move on. All right, that looks like most people are ready to go. We are actually going to use the poll questions again to share answers. So I hope you have your answers ready to share that way. So I'll go ahead and move forward. Now, like some teachers do, I'm sure you do this too, sometimes we have to break a question to part A and part B. So that first question did have a couple of parts. So 1A is, what is LinguaFolio? So you look that up, and what I want you to do then when we run the poll is to go ahead and click in the answer you found to show that you found the correct one. So what is LinguaFolio? 1A. Go ahead and enter your answers. All right, almost half of you have entered your answers so far in the poll. Please go ahead and just click on the screen what your answer is that you found for this question. We'll wait 10 more seconds so you can make sure you get your answer entered. All right. And according to what you found, you are correct. The majority of you found that LinguaFolio is a proficiency-based, student-centered formative assessment tool. So as you know, Sally shared with you that these slides will be available for training as well. So on the next slide, of course, we have that answer highlighted in case you're using these materials later on with others. So LinguaFolio is proficiency-based, which is nice because this looks at language proficiency and how students learn language over time and are able to use it with the proficiency they've developed. It is student-centered, meaning that the LinguaFolio belongs to the student. And so it is something the student does. And it is a formative assessment tool, which means it informs our instruction as teachers, but it is not something we grade because a formative assessment is an ungraded check, if you will, on where people are at. All right, question number 2, or I guess number 1, part B. What 3 purposes does LinguaFolio serve? So once again, we'll go ahead and run that question in the polls. Now this, you know, has 3 answers. So what 3 purposes does it serve? You need to define 3 of these as the correct answer. So go ahead and click on the ones you found for what 3 purposes does LinguaFolio serve. All right. Looks like almost half of you have put in your responses that you found. Let's go ahead and finish up voting. All right. I'm going to go ahead and show our responses. And it looks like, once again, the overwhelming majority found those 3 correct answers, those 3 purposes for LinguaFolio. They are, of course, that LinguaFolio empowers learners to manage their own language learning, because again, LinguaFolio belongs to the student, and it helps them see what they can do to help their language grow and build their proficiency. So it sort of answers that question we get from students sometimes of, why are we doing this? Because they can find that answer, so that empowers them to manage their own language learning and think about where they want to go with this to learn even more. Also, LinguaFolio facilitates language learning in and outside the classroom. And this is really important for a lot of reasons. You know, of course, instructional time with students is critically important. And we want to use all of that time to make sure we're scaffolding their input and helping them build their proficiency. But we also know there are things that they can do outside the classroom, especially with the technology we have today and the access we have to things like news broadcasts, social media, and other ways for students to hear and write in the language and practice the language outside of the classroom. We also have many students who, of course, have language experiences outside the classroom, either because they're from a heritage language community where they're speaking the language that they're learning in school, or maybe other languages. They may have the opportunity to travel or study abroad, particularly with the number of military families we have in North Carolina who have lived abroad for some period. And we have students, of course, who come from many different backgrounds and are able to access language resources outside the classroom. And so it's important for students to use LinguaFolio to show all of their language learning inside the classroom, outside the classroom, languages they've studied formally, and languages that they have learned in a more informal manner. And finally, LinguaFolio provides a place for learners to collect evidence showing their growth. So there's a place in LinguaFolio called the Dossier, but also as part of the self-assessment statements that are in LinguaFolio that ask students to show what it is they can do with the language. So LinguaFolio belongs to the student, and there is some self-assessment involved, but the proof of that, the evidence of that, is the samples of work or the evidence that students upload or put in their LinguaFolio, if it's a paper version, to show what it is they can do with the language. Now, the other purposes that are up there as distractors on the answers do have a role in LinguaFolio, but they're not the main purpose of LinguaFolio. LinguaFolio doesn't determine a language learning path, but LinguaFolio is a place where students can document their language learning path, whatever it is, for all the languages that they know. Also, LinguaFolio can provide some parameters or guidelines for teachers to use in the classroom because, as we said, it's a formative assessment tool. And formative assessment tools and check-ins and things help inform our instruction and change things when we need to so that students learn better. All right, question number 2. Which state standards is LinguaFolio aligned to? And you see a set of state standards here from North Carolina, from our North Carolina Standard Course of Study. So go ahead and check off on our next question. Which state standards is LinguaFolio aligned to? I see almost half of you put your answers in. Go ahead and finish up. All right, I'm going to close this poll out. And it looks like the majority of you once again got the correct answers. LinguaFolio is aligned to our state standards in English Language Development, our ESL, and also our World Language Essential Standards. We were actually the first state to have proficiency-based world language standards, but many other states have since followed suit. However, our counterparts in English Language Development or English as a Second Language, ESL, actually had proficiency-based standards as part of the WIDA consortium before us in world languages. And so it's important to remember that LinguaFolio is aligned to both sets of standards, the ESL and the World Language Standards in North Carolina. Some of you also indicated that the English Language Arts standards could be aligned. And technically they could, but typically LinguaFolio is used for second language learning or third and fourth language learning, not your first language. Students are certainly welcome to use LinguaFolio to document their first language, but it's not set up to be aligned with our English Language Arts standard course of study. All right, question number 3 on our scavenger hunt. How many parts does LinguaFolio have and what are they called? This time we didn't split the question into several parts. It's just one question. How many parts does it have and what are those parts called? So go ahead and put your responses in that you found. All right, over half of you have put in your responses. Let's go ahead and finish up. All right, thank you. And once again, the majority of you did find the correct answer. LinguaFolio has 3 parts. They are called the biography, the dossier, and the passport or global profile. So let's stop and talk about that for a minute. There are 3 parts to LinguaFolio. The biography is a record of personal language learning history that helps learners set goals and reflect on their language learning, and as well as their intercultural experiences. There's a series of self-assessment or can-do statements that are included in the biography, and they apply to different language learners in world languages, heritage languages, dual language immersion, and ESL language programs. So there's a lot in that biography. The second part of LinguaFolio is the dossier. I mentioned that briefly before. The dossier is where you have your collection of work samples that the student chooses to document their language learning progress with their skills in each mode of communication. It's used to demonstrate the individual's language abilities to others, including educators, teachers like yourselves or administrators, parents, maybe their peers, and even potential employers. In the online version, files for the dossier can be uploaded next to the can-do statements that they're associated with. So there's a direct link there. And finally, the third part of LinguaFolio is the passport or global profile. The passport is a snapshot of experiences and competencies in different languages, sort of a summary, if you will, of the student's language learning journey and what they can do skill-wise in the different languages that they have in LinguaFolio. It's updated frequently and records formal qualifications like courses completed or diplomas or certificates earned. It also includes a summary of the self-assessments and any test scores. So if you have students who are taking things like advanced placement or other kinds of tests where they want to document what they have achieved in language, that's the place for it, is the passport. All right, question number 4 in the scavenger hunt. What kind of LinguaFolio classroom materials are available and in what formats? So go ahead and put your answer in based on what you found on the website. This is a check all that apply, so you may well have more than one answer here. All right, about half of you put in your answer. Let's go ahead and finish out. All right, great, thank you. I'll go ahead and share the answers. And you found all the correct answers. LinguaFolio class materials are available in a lot of different ways and for different formats. First of all, of course, LinguaFolio classroom materials are available for ESL and world languages, so all language learning environments or second language learning environments. There's also Word versions of LinguaFolio files to use with your students, PDF versions of LinguaFolio files, and a LinguaFolio online or LFO website, and even an LFO app that you can use with your students if you want that online version rather than the PDF versions or the Word versions. The good news is that when these materials were developed, because they were developed by people at agencies like the Department of Public Instruction or Departments of Education, they were developed so that they could be available and free to everyone. And so we're going to show you today where those classroom materials are online and how you access free LFO accounts for yourself and your students if you're in North Carolina. All right, let's move on to our last question in the scavenger hunt. What additional resources are available for LinguaFolio? So I want you to go ahead and take a look and go ahead and share your answers. We'll tell you that there's more than one answer on this as well. All right, about half of you have voted. Let's go ahead and finish out. What did you find about additional resources available for LinguaFolio beyond classroom materials? All right, go ahead and close out. And once again, the majority of you found that we do in fact have National LinguaFolio information on the NACESFL website. We do have research on LinguaFolio from various publications, and we do have research on LinguaFolio from dissertations. We'll be talking a little bit about that later on, so that if you need that information, particularly if you're an administrator or you're someone who wants to do research, even perhaps for a graduate degree you're pursuing as a teacher, you'll have access to that information too. All right, so now that we know a little bit about LinguaFolio and some materials that are posted about it on the website, let's go ahead and stop and have some chat about our experience with LinguaFolio. LinguaFolio has actually been around since about 2005, so over a decade now of having LinguaFolio as a tool in our classrooms. And so our question today for you is, what is your past experience prior to 2015 been with LinguaFolio projects, pilots, and training here in North Carolina? For example, you see some of the icons on the screen. We were involved with the first pilot called the 5-state pilot of LinguaFolio with our neighboring states of Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, and Kentucky. We also had an ESL LinguaFolio project in about 2008, starting then, where we created Esl Can Do Statements specifically for LinguaFolio and for ESL language learning environments that were different than the World Language Can Do Statements. We made those available nationally now, so we share them with everyone. We don't just keep them to ourselves here in North Carolina. We also had an e-LinguaFolio at one point that was the first version of, if you will, an online LinguaFolio version. And that was starting in about 2010 until just recently when it was closed out and replaced by LFO, or LinguaFolio Online. We've also done LinguaFolio training at conferences like FLANC, the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina, at spring workshops, at district workshops, and through distance learning. In addition, we've had some events with LinguaFolio. For example, in 2012, we had the LinguaFolio Carousel event, where we had a number of teachers talking about how they implement LinguaFolio in their classrooms. We also, here in North Carolina, helped create the LinguaFolio training modules that are online now on the NACESFL website, the National Council of State Supervisors for Languages. That's the national group that does LinguaFolio. But those started here in North Carolina and are now shared online. So what I'd like to do is take a look and at the questions box as well as your raised hands, because if you were involved in this, we want to share your past experience with LinguaFolio in those projects, pilots, and training. So I'm going to take a look. If you have something you want to share about your experience with LinguaFolio prior to 2015, just raise your hand electronically and we'll unmute you. If you don't want to talk out loud, but you do want to share something that you did with LinguaFolio prior to 2015, you can also put in the questions box. I see that Ellen has her hand raised. Ellen, I'm going to unmute you so that you can share.
Hi, I'm Ellen Hart with the North Carolina Virtual Public School. And we had the opportunity to be a part of LinguaFolio with our courses. For example, when we started our Mandarin Chinese courses, we wanted to make sure and have this formative assessment piece involved in our courses online with LinguaFolio. And so we added those into our courses. At one point, we had eLinguaFolio as well in our courses. Several of our teachers have been involved in the training that Anne-Marie talked about. So we are all about eLinguaFolio and LinguaFolio at NCVPS.
Great, thank you. I also see that Lucy has her hand raised. Lucy, I've unmuted you so you can share. Lucy, do you have access to your microphone? Can you share with us? It sounds like Lucy's getting organized, so we'll come back to her in a minute. Martha, go ahead. I see your hand raised. I will unmute you so you can share about your experience with LinguaFolio. Martha, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and talk. Also, like I said, if you're a little bit shy, you can always type what you want to say in the questions box and we can read it out for you.
I think Lucy is going to type her answer because she says her mic is not set up yet.
All right. And it looks like a few hands are getting raised by the system, maybe from when we first did the sound checks and some other things earlier. That's okay too. I see that Maria wanted to share that she has been involved in the flank presentations or training at the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina Conference with LinguaFolio over time. And we have had several workshops done at the Flank Conference. You may recall, those of you who are familiar with the Flank Conference, that they have workshops usually either 3 hours or 6 hours long with their conference, and we have had several LinguaFolio trainings, some done by those of us here, on the line, Sally and I, or some of our colleagues at NCDPI, but also others, because we had for a long time a whole cadre of LinguaFolio trainers, and their purpose was to go out and learn what we had, for example, in the online modules, and share that with people in face-to-face presentations. So we had a number of people doing that at the Flint conference, and we also had that happening in districts and regions around the state, and to some degree around the country as well. I see June has a question about who started this program, who started LinguaFolio. Well, LinguaFolio was started by the National Council of State Supervisors for Languages, or NACESFL is our acronym. NACESFL is made up of people at state agencies like myself who are responsible for world language education for the state. And we actually, the 5-state pilot we mentioned that you see the little logo on, that has Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Kentucky. Those were the 5 states and that had world language consultants like myself who got together in about 2003 and created LinguaFolio using the European portfolio system that was similar to LinguaFolio, and creating can-do statements based on our ACTFL, the American Council for the Teaching of Foreign Languages, and the CESFL can-do statements. And so that's where that LinguaFolio started. After that 5-state pilot, there were revisions, and then it was shared nationwide. And there continued to be updates to the NACESFL, ACTFL, can-do statements since then that have been incorporated into LinguaFolio. And the use of LinguaFolio and the training with it has continued to expand and hopefully improve over time. So that's who started this program, who started LinguaFolio. All right, who else wants to share about their experience with LinguaFolio before 2015? All right, well, I don't see any hands right now, so maybe we'll go on. When we talk about LinguaFolio in the present, we also want to think about what's happened more recently in 2016 until this year, 2019, particularly with LinguaFolio projects, pilots, and training here in North Carolina. So we talked a little bit before about sort of our first decade with LinguaFolio, but now as we've continued on into our second decade, of course I mentioned that we had transitioned from eLinguaFolio, which we created in about 2010, to LinguaFolio Online. And LinguaFolio Online, or LFO, is the online version of LinguaFolio that's used nationally. It's a very nice system. It is an app now, so those of us who are very familiar with apps, with all the things we do with our devices, can get LinguaFolio Online. Now, I will tell you though, the LFO app itself is really just for student accounts, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's one of the things that's happened very recently with LinguaFolio. We also had several pilots with the new LFO for NC in the spring of 2018, and then also last school year in 2018-2019. And that's where we were looking at LFO for North Carolina. And again, we're still using the national version of LFO, of course, just like we use the national version of all the other documents, the Word and PDF documents for LinguaFolio. But we wanted to make sure it would work for North Carolina because we have set up a contract with the University of Oregon that does LFO, so that our North Carolina teachers and their students can have access to LFO accounts for free. LFO accounts don't cost a lot of money, but it can add up over time, especially if you're a teacher, like I was in the classroom as a French teacher, who had to find funding for supplies like this on my own. So here in North Carolina, we have a way for our teachers to access LFO. We also have created an introduction to LinguaFolio training in Canvas. Canvas, you know, is our statewide LMS, or learner management system, that we use to do professional development online. And so we've created an introduction to LinguaFolio training course in Canvas, using those LinguaFolio training modules that were first created in North Carolina and now are available nationally, but also getting into it so that people can earn contact hours and CEUs for their LinguaFolio training. And eventually we want to make that course self-paced and available in the statewide system. We will also make it available through Canvas Commons so that people who are outside of our public education system here in North Carolina, like in private schools or in higher education, can also access it. Having it in Canvas Commons too will also ensure that if a district or a school wants to use that Canvas course, but do it not in a self-paced way, but in an instructor-led way or as part of a PLC, they'd have access to that in Canvas Commons for that reason. So that's been our more recent history, our present experience with LinguaFolio. And again, I'd like to hear from some of you, either by raising your hand or typing in the question box, what your experience with LinguaFolio has been in the present time, 2016 to 2019, with projects, pilots, and training here in North Carolina. We do have a couple of questions coming up. I see one person who says they don't know much about LinguaFolio. That's okay. Now is a good time to learn. And is it applicable to elementary students? And the answer is yes. It can be used with students of any age, starting in kindergarten or pre-K, of course, if you would like, and going on up into adulthood. We have many teachers who use it K-12, particularly at the secondary level, middle school and high school. We also, of course, have teachers working with community college students, students at universities, and we always encourage teachers themselves to have their own LinguaFolio, because as language learners, we know that learning a language and building your proficiency is a lifelong endeavor. You have to keep working at it because you have strengths and you have weaknesses and things you want to work on, just like your students do. And so we encourage all teachers, in fact, to have a LinguaFolio to document their own language learning. This also helps them know what their students are seeing, particularly if they're using the LFO app for that, and helps them think about the things from the language learner's standpoint. June has commented that she wants to share, she works a great deal with bilingual students in the area of learning differences, like special education or exceptional children and those kinds of things. And she wants to know how to, she wants to use LinguaFolio possibly to support them in that dual language experience. And that is a great use for that. Krista is asking, how different is LFO from eLinguaFolio? Well, Krista, I would encourage you to judge that for yourself. I think it's different in that LFO is easier and more up to date as an app. I think it's a little more user friendly than eLinguaFolio was. eLinguaFolio worked well for the time we had it, but there are many more things we can do with technology now and a lot more functions that we have that are, I think, just easier to do in LFO. But that's my opinion, and you can judge for yourself. And we have some people commenting that they think LinguaFolio will be great for supporting students with learning differences. And I would say absolutely, because we know that all learners, whether they have identified learning differences or not, learn at their own pace and learn in different ways. And LinguaFolio, because it belongs to the student, it empowers students to think about how they're learning and how they can learn best. And there's some pieces in there, for example, in the biography that look to learning activities, and actually there's a sort of some surveys about like how do I learn, that get students to think about what works best for them or what kinds of things could they do to learn a language. So definitely it helps all students, and maybe especially those students who have some learning differences where they might want some strategies or techniques to approach language learning. And June's following up that she thinks that LinguaFolio would also work well with gifted students, and that's very true. So again, all across the spectrum, whether students have identified learning differences or not, it would work well with everyone, including, like I said, adults and teachers. Jorge notes that he's teaching level 2 and 4 of Spanish, and that he's looking for activities for them. And I would say that there aren't really activities in LinguaFolio, but there are a lot of things to get you thinking about what kinds of activities would help students demonstrate things in LinguaFolio, like with the can do statements. There are also some things within LinguaFolio. There's for example, an inventory of language learning activities that you might use as a teacher, you might have your students use to think about what kinds of activities would help them use their language in different ways and thus help them build their proficiency. And Jennifer is noting that she says she's noting that we said the Canvas training is online. That's true. Canvas is an online learning system. And will it be available to access soon? The answer is yes and no. It's actually already available to some degree. We've got a version of the Introduction to LinguaFolio training available in Canvas, but right now you have to be manually registered. What we're hoping to do is to add some things to that and make it available as a self-paced Canvas course in our statewide system here in North Carolina. And then, like I said, also in the Canvas Commons, so others outside of our system can certainly access it there. And you'll be able to access it for free there. All right. Again, looking in the question box, we're about to move on from what we're at now, but we do have a couple other comments that people want to share. Krista says, our students used to use eLinguaFolio. I just heard that UNC faculty mentioned that one of their students went to UNC, presented their language learning history and progress, or their LinguaFolio, to show their proficiency, and it supported the student well enough to be placed in a higher level course at UNC to continue their language learning. And I have heard stories like that as well, Krista. And that's a powerful thing because, again, because LinguaFolio belongs to the student, it goes with the student as they travel from course to course, grade to grade, and even beyond our K-12 doors. As students go on to college campuses and things like that, it stays with them so that they can show others what it is they can do with the languages they've learned. June is asking, are there samples of actual LinguaFolio at different levels by students? And the answer is yes. In the Introduction to the LinguaFolio training and those online training modules for LinguaFolio, there are samples, and there are actually even students and teachers and administrators talking about how they use LinguaFolio in the classroom, what they use it for, how they incorporate it into the work they're doing already, and how others might think about doing that. And before we go on, I'll share this one last comment. Jennifer has said that she's very interested in the Canvas training for LinguaFolio, and she'd love more info on how to be registered, so now or later, and we will definitely share that. And later on, we'll also talk to you a little bit about our NC LinguaFolio listserv. We're going to add all of you to that listserv so that when we have announcements like the Canvas training has been revised, has been made available statewide as a self-paced course, that sort of thing, we'll share that out. Oh, and we do have one last comment. Maria wanted to add that she did the pilot in 2018 with the LFO, and 2 of her students took it to college with them. So that's great to know. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. That's an update on one of our latest pilots. That's great to know. All right, well, I'm watching our time. Let's go ahead and talk about our future of LinguaFolio, because we do want to make sure that we make it clear that LinguaFolio continues to grow and change as we need it to for our language learners. And so let's talk more about the future with LinguaFolio, our projects, pilots, and training in North Carolina. The first thing I would say is that LFO is for all in North Carolina. And so as a teacher, if you want to use LinguaFolio and you want to use the online version, the LFO, you can. We've made it as a state. We've contracted with the University of Oregon to make that available to our teachers. Also, as you know, we've been talking about our Introduction to LinguaFolio Canvas course. There are going to be some improvements with the LinguaFolio sponsorship projects that we're going to talk to you about here at the end of our broadcast today. We're going to add some videos and activities from teachers' classrooms because we know teachers learn best from each other, and we want you to have those materials in the training so that you're hearing from other teachers about how they implement LinguaFolio and use it with their students. We also, as we said, want to offer this as a self-paced course statewide so that any individual can learn about LinguaFolio to use in their classrooms. And we want to, again, make it available in Canvas Commons so that people in private schools and higher education institutes, of course, can also use LinguaFolio with their students and for themselves as language learners. So that brings us to our next poll question. I want you to think about, after all of our conversations about this, what kind of LinguaFolio resources do you use or want to use? Do you want to use LinguaFolio via downloaded PDF documents? Do you want it using downloaded Word documents that you can use with your students? Do you want LFO on a computer for teacher accounts, or LFO on a computer for student accounts, or the LFO to go app for students? So let me go ahead and run that question so you can share how you would like to use LinguaFolio. And this is a check all that apply, so don't be shy. All right, let's finish up with this poll. What kind of LinguaFolio resources do you use or want to use? All right, I'll go ahead and close out. And it looks like everybody's interested in something, with the most responses coming for interest in using LFO. Notice that almost 85 to 95% of you said that's what you're most interested in using. And we certainly understand that. You know, having the technology we do literally at our fingertips now makes things a lot easier when we're trying to teach and learn. And so just a quick reminder, LFO accounts are available. For teacher accounts, you have to do LFO on a computer, like a laptop or something. Which you can also do with student accounts. But if you want to use the LFO to go app, that's available just for student accounts. That's the way the University of Oregon set it up. We also have a lot of interest also in using LinguaFolio as PDF documents. And this might be something that's more of traditional portfolio that you're thinking about, where you would print this out and students would have a folder, or perhaps several folders where they would have the parts of their LinguaFolio and they would put their pieces together like they would do with any portfolio system. And we even have 60% of you who said you're interested in using LinguaFolio as downloaded Word documents. And so this is kind of a the middle of the road between PDF and, of course, the LFO app. But this is an opportunity to have these in Word documents so that students can manipulate them on the computer, but they're not necessarily in LFO. So great. Thank you for that. So what we're going to do now is transition to what we have on the World Language Google site for LinguaFolio for all ESL and World Language teachers. We do have a LinguaFolio homepage on the site. You see that it is available at the bit.ly link listed. We'll go ahead and put that in the chat box as well so that you can have it. But what it is it's available under the Resources tab. You see that in the orange highlight there. So, and so if you go out to the website, you can always find it under that Resources tab. So I'm going to go ahead and link out using our bit.ly link. I will go ahead and put the bit.ly link as well into our chat box so you can go out there with me, or you can just follow along on the screen, whichever you would prefer. All right, so that's in the chat box. But here is our LinguaFolio page, just like you saw in the screenshot. And again, under the Resources tab that I've just said, if you mouse over that, LinguaFolio is one of the things that comes up right away that you can go directly to. So on our LinguaFolio page for North Carolina, we first have information about LinguaFolio being a formative assessment. You'll recognize this. This is probably right where you found your answers to your scavenger hunt. So if you scroll down the page, you see that there's a lot of information about LinguaFolio, including the 3 parts. It goes over the biography, the dossier, and the passport. And then if you continue to scroll down, there are some resources for North Carolina about exploring, implementing, and researching LinguaFolio. So here's where we get our classroom materials, our professional development, and our additional resources. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the classroom materials for North Carolina. And I'm going to go to the world languages because I'm the world languages consultant. And I'm going to share with you kind of what's there for LinguaFolio. And again, these are available as Word and PDF documents on this page. So you see, again, a statement of what LinguaFolio is. You see the 3 parts, the biography, the dossier, and the passport. And you see that those pictures, by the way, are hyperlinked, as is the link below them. And there's a brief explanation about the biography, the dossier, and the passport. And then beneath that, there's additional components that you may be familiar with. So for example, I'll pull up the biography components. There are several parts of this, including things that students would use to sort of summarize their learning or reflect on their learning. There's the How Do I Learn inventory, there's the intercultural encounter reflections, the intercultural experience summary, the language activities, the learning inventory, and the progress report. And again, those materials are available in PDF on the left and Word documents on the right. And so those are just downloaded right from a Google Drive so that you can download them quickly and easily. Also in the biography, of course, is our can-do statements. And these are the necessitable actual can-do statements that have been developed nationally and are regularly revised and updated. They are also part of LFO. There is a document about how to use LinguaFolio can-do statements right here, linked. And so you can click on that and get a whole explanation about how to use those can-do statements in your work with students. There's also a series of proficiency grids. Many of you know that we have proficiency-based standards, obviously, in both ESL and world languages. In world languages, we use the actual proficiency scale to talk about how our learners should grow and learn over time as they're studying a language. And so we have several of those grids to help you sort of think about that as a teacher. The first grid we have is the National LinguaFolio grid. That's used across the country. And then we have several that are customized for our North Carolina SCOS or Standard Course of Study that show particular types of language programs. So for example, there's one for alphabetic and logographic languages. Alphabetic would be French, German, Arabic. Logographic would be Japanese and Chinese. There's a grid for classical languages like Latin in using LinguaFolio. There's a grid for visual languages like American Sign Language in using LinguaFolio. And then, of course, there's a grid specifically for English Language Development or ESL. And notice they have lists of things they correspond to, proficiency scales you might be familiar with. And on those grids, you'll see correspondences to them. So if I open up the one that's designed for North Carolina's standards, you see at the top the actual proficiency levels that we use in our standards, and you see that through advanced mid because in our standards, that's the highest level we believe students can reach based on the outcomes we expect in a language program. At the bottom, you see how other proficiency scales correspond to that. So you see the ILR, the Interagency Language Roundtable. That is the proficiency scale used in the United States, but for diplomatic and military efforts. You see the CEFR, the Common European Framework of Reference. That's the proficiency scale used in Europe and Asian countries. And you see the TESOL, the Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, or the ESL proficiency scale that's used in this country. So we want to reference that because you might need that, or your students might need that, depending on what their background in language learning is. Following that, we have the 2013 Assessful Actual Can-Do Statements, again in PDF and in Word, for you to use, and we have the 2017 versions as well. Some teachers prefer one or the other. Notice that you can download what you need, and the statements from 2013 are by proficiency level, communication mode, and as a packet with all of them. The statements from 2017 have only been released by proficiency levels so far, and so we have everything there for you that we have access to. Of course, some of these materials are also posted on the national LinguaFolio website from Necessful, but we tried to put them here for you in North Carolina so that you can quickly find them here as you need them. All right. So having done that, I'm going to turn things over now to Sally a bit to talk about classroom materials in North Carolina for ESL LinguaFolio, so that she can share with you on that. All right, looks like we're having some technical problems behind the scenes. Sally, can you go ahead and do a sound check so that we know you can hear us? And more importantly, that we can hear you. Oh, well, it looks like Sally is having some technical problems, but she's trying to restart her computer and get that fixed. That's okay. I'll go ahead and do the best I can with the ESL, and then we can hope that she'll jump in very soon. For our ESL resources, I'm just going to click on that link that you see there on the page under Classroom Resources for North Carolina for ESL. And you see something very similar as what we had before with world languages. So an explanation, a link to the 3 different components, the biography, the dossier, and the passport. And these links, by the way, on both pages go to a PDF of the entire biography, the entire dossier, and the entire passport. But then, like I said before, if you want the component parts, those are below, particularly for the biography, which has several parts to it, 6 different activities and things you can do with students about their language learning. And then, of course, the can-do statements that you would like to use. Notice here that the National LinguaFolio grid and the Proficiency Grids are posted, but the first one is, in fact, the ESL grid. And so if we open that up and take a look, again, we're just seeing, particularly there at the bottom, that ESL scale, that TESOL scale, that is 6 levels, and that many of you are familiar with who are ESL teachers or work with students who are English learners. The other grids are also posted there, just like on the other page. But the first thing underneath the biography components here is the ESL Can Do Statements. So I told you that those were created here in North Carolina and shared nationally. And so they're available again as PDFs and as Word documents. And then you also have the other Can Do Statements, the Necessful Actual Can Do Statements from both 2013 and 2017 below. So anything that you want to use is available here. And in the LFO, all of those are available to us here in North Carolina too. So let's look. I still don't see Sally online, so she's still trying to resolve her problems. That's okay. Sometimes tech problems cause quite a bit of trouble for us. I'll go ahead and start into the LinguaFolio Online or LFO for NC. And we say that LFO for NC again because we have arranged for the University of Oregon to have a special login place for us so that teachers can claim their accounts from here in North Carolina and have free access to LFO. But LFO is available nationally, certainly. So as we're looking at this, a couple things I want to call your attention to on the LFO page. There's a brief explanation of how LFO came to replace eLinguaFolio that we had before. And there's information about how to get help. So if you want to log into LFO for NC, there's the direct link that you see there on the screen. You can go right to it. If you ever have any questions or technical issues, you email the LFO support team, not us here at DPI. We're happy if you copy us on those messages, but we need you to go right to the source because they can help you the most quickly with any technical issues you have with LFO for NC. Also, some of you I'm sure are already wondering, well, how do I get access to LFO for NC for my students? And I'm going to highlight one of the things at the top of the page and see if I can make this a little bit larger so we can read a little bit more easily. North Carolina teachers who want to use LFO in their classrooms are eligible for free accounts for themselves and their students. We're going to post an LFO access form, and we'll post that link soon on this page if you and your students qualify. And so you'll have to click on that, enter your information about which district or charter school and which school within that organization you're part of, so that we can verify that information and send you the unique join codes, which is access codes, that will allow you to have an LFO for NC account and get started. Also with LFO, we have a number of tutorials. So there are instructor tutorials and student tutorials, as well as tutorials for the app. In the instructor tutorials, you see that there's an LFO overview. There's a document on how you sign up and log in. There's information about adding and removing students and making accounts for them. There's information about assigning can-do statements to your students based on what it is you're learning and you're teaching in your classes. There's information on the evidence review process, or how you look at what students upload to show you. There's a piece about how you review student evidence. And then there's a note about how you reset passwords. So that's always good information to have, I find, with any kind of tool like that. Likewise, for students, there in the middle, you have a series of tutorials of things you can share with them. And you're very welcome, by the way, to click on the links here and just download these documents. They are PDF documents, but they're very visual, and they sort of walk you through step by step of whatever the tutorial is on. They're extremely helpful. So for students, there's an LFO overview. There's information about signing up and logging in once your teacher has created your account. There's information about uploading evidence, how you do that in the web version of LFO, as well as how you do the ones in the mobile app, and those tutorials are on the right-hand side for both Android and iOS. There's information about how you do self-reflection and the My Proficiency overview in LFO, and there's information about the evidence review process for students. So a lot of materials to help you get started, and we always know how helpful those are for understanding an app. So that's the LFO for NC page. And it looks like Sally may be solving her technological issues.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome back.
Okay,
so glad we got that solved. The good news is we've moved forward, but there's still plenty to do. We've looked at the classroom resources for North Carolina, the ESL materials, the world languages, and we're just getting ready to go to the LFO for NC. We've looked at the page already, but I'll go ahead and forward this for you.
Thank you. And for the ESL teachers that are online, we are going to offer a 30-minute follow-up webinar where we are going to discuss this, because we have had a lot of teachers that maybe heard about LinguaFolio in the past but have not used it since the last two, let's say, updates with the new formats. So if you have questions later, we can talk. And I'm sure Anne-Marie showed you all the documents and said how these are aligned to the can-do descriptors and how you can select those once you are online and you're using and either any of the formats. And I believe that she showed the checklist and the samples with the different language domains and how you can use the different levels, the 6 levels of the WIDA access. So I hope that's clear. If you have questions, feel free to type your questions as well. And I'm sorry about my technical difficulties. So are you continuing, Anne-Marie, or should I go ahead with LFO for NC?
Why don't you start on this slide for LFO for NC?
Perfect. So we were talking about the past, the present, and the future of LFO, and we were really excited about using LFO, having this pilot in 2 opportunities with 2 different groups last year. And we said, well, now we need to offer this statewide, and we are really excited that this is going to be something free for all our educators, world languages, and ESL. And they will create their accounts for their students and also their teacher accounts. And there is no limit in the accounts that you can create. And we're going to set a Google form in which, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating what you said, Anne-Marie, or I'm not sure, that we're going to share this so everyone who is interested in using the LFO for NC can access and have one of the join codes, because you are looking at the screen and that is the home page for the LFO for NC. And once you set up, you can create your account there and you will be able to see it. And you have the two options. You can have the website, the platform, you can use it with the teacher account, but also you have the app that you can use with a student account. And the beauty of this LFO is that it continues with the process. It's a formative assessment tool for the students. It promotes autonomous learning. The students are showcasing what they learn and how they can use the language. And they can set goals using the can-do statements and keep track of their progress as they accomplish those statements. And they can upload work samples to showcase their abilities, and they can create evidence to include in their portfolios. And what you were mentioning at the beginning, some of the students who begin this, and if you are in first, second grade, and you start using this, then as your students continue progressing, they will continue using LinguaFolio, and once they graduate, they will have this resource, this compilation of their evidence of what they can do in the different language domains with a language, or maybe 2 or 3 languages if they are ESL students that might also learn a foreign language.
Okay, so that sounds good, and I think we can move past this slide here. This is just the team at Castles at the University of Oregon who helps with LFO. And you can go ahead and chat here for a moment about our different LFO accounts if you want, Sally.
Yes, I think and Marie also mentioned this before. We have 2 options. The LinguaFolio Online is for you to use on your computer, and you can create your teacher account in which you are going to have access to create your student account and assign the can-do statements you want them to practice. And you will be also able to review the evidence, the different evidence samples that they upload, and provide feedback. And the students will be able to access their account on their devices, their computers, and add information. For example, if it's a writing sample or a speaking sample, they will be able to do it on the computer. But the LFO to go up is only available for student accounts. So if you are the teacher, you won't be able to assign tasks and the different can-do statements using the app, but you will be able to practice and see what your students are doing. This is the use that the teacher will have. You will be able to see how the platform looks for your students and be able to troubleshoot as they learn how to use it and how to upload the different evidences. So, and the students will be able to use it. Some of the students might have iPads or any other kind of tablets, smartphones, and this is what they will be using to upload their evidence. So I'm going to continue with the next slide. And I've been talking about the evidence that students can upload, and there are plenty of samples of these, because as they are learning the language and you have set their can-do statements, their goals, they can upload writing samples, such as typing paragraphs of an essay or an email. And this is really important because for ESL, when we are providing writing practice for our students for the access test, this will be a great practice for them because they are learning the language, they are accomplishing those goals, but they are having that practice. They're typing and interacting with the device and uploading their information for those students from 4th through 12th grade. And also we have audio samples, such as recording of students introducing themselves or talking about a recent family vacation or any other conversation and activities that you can have. And again, they can upload this, and this for ESL, and maybe Anne-Marie can give some examples later. For ESL, this will be great for the students to practice for the speaking skill, the speaking part of the test, because then they can showcase what they know, and they are used to recording their voice, listening to each other, listening to themselves, and recording and doing this. And this practice is also helpful. And visual files as well, and digital photos. So they can record a video, they can have a little sketch, and then they can just record this and upload it so you can see it, or they can have a project in this, and then they share in their classroom. And the digital photos, if you're taking pictures, maybe you're creating something specific in a project, they can also use this in LinguaFolio online as one of those evidences.
And, Sally's really correct about that. Using LinguaFolio this way and having students share their evidences and actually choose evidences that show their different language skills is very motivating, first of all. But also, we've heard from teachers that by using the app like this and really capitalizing on things like, a way to record audio samples, a way to do quick videos or visual files of some kinds, even pictures, helps students feel even more comfortable practicing the language and sharing that with others as they create their evidences. And so it's even more motivation for them to do things like speaking assignments or activities in general, as well as other types of work that can show their proficiency that's growing. And we have heard that this makes it easier to teach language and get your students to build their confidence with the language they're learning.
Yes, and it's great for the students when they are in the beginning levels, the novice level or emerging or beginner level, because then they see their progress. At first, they might not have a lot of can do statements that they feel that they can really perform. They can do that in the language, but as they progress, then they will see their own progress and see what areas do they need to improve. If they are maybe working a lot on listening and they already have a lot of things they can do with listening and speaking, but maybe they need to work more on writing or reading, so they will see this as well, and it will be something more visual for them. This will create that ownership of their language learning. So I'm going to continue with the next slide. I think I cannot control Anne-Marie. I think I lost the control when I.
Okay, no worries. Well, the next couple slides, actually, we've already kind of looked at online, Sally.
Okay.
So I don't know, we need to go over these. We've talked about the instructor tutorials that are there to help teachers who decide to use LFO. We've talked about this slide here too, about the student tutorials that are available. It's the same way to help when you're using LFO as opposed to the Word or PDF versions, and especially when students are using the LFO to go app.
Oh, thank you. Perfect.
Okay.
And these are the best friends once you have your accounts. Even before you create the account, we recommend that you go through these sections of the tutorials so you can learn how to do it, and maybe that will save you some time when you start creating your students' accounts. And for the student tutorial that is right now on the screen, it's also really good if you get familiar with the tutorial so you can help the students when you start setting their accounts, and then it's going to be easier for them to upload the evidence, to check their self-reflections, and also continue the process of reviewing the evidences that they are uploading.
Great. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit. I'm conscious of our time, but we're actually doing pretty well on time. So we'll go ahead and talk about some additional resources you may want to be familiar with LinguaFolio. Back on the webpage, you saw that we had those additional resources, and we're going to look specifically at the National LinguaFolio site that's highlighted. So I put these slides in with screenshots if you want to use them that way, or you could go directly out to the website if you're working with others and showing them this material. But the first thing is the National LinguaFolio site, and you see that a picture of it here. I told you that it was the successful site, the National Council of State Supervisors for Languages. They're the group that originally created LinguaFolio for us based on Europe's model, but that we have it here in the US now. And so you see some basic information about LinguaFolio, and all of the things that I've shown you, or we've shown you that we have here in North Carolina, are also linked on the successful website, that National LinguaFolio site, if you want to get more information. In addition, there's a lot of research that's been done on LinguaFolio, and it is posted on the National LinguaFolio site under research, of course. And so I've just got a screenshot of it here. We link directly to it from our website. And so as you can see, there's LinguaFolio research done very recently, the 2017 LinguaFolio theoretical framework. There's also several articles from publications like The Language Educator, that's the actual practitioner journal for teachers, about using the newly revised Can Do Statements from 2017, as well as an article on interculturality from 2014 in The Language Educator. In addition, you see a couple of dissertations that have been done on LinguaFolio. The one that, of course, is our favorite here in North Carolina is the 2016 dissertation about LinguaFolio implementation at the classroom level, and it's a collective case study of North Carolina teachers. There's also information about LinguaFolio goal-setting intervention from a 2013 dissertation, and there's several other articles about LinguaFolio and looking into it from a research perspective on increasing self-regulated learning through LinguaFolio, and goal setting and student achievement, and there was a longitudinal study done that was published in the Modern Language Journal. So there's quite a bit there that may be of interest to you in your work. In addition, we have posted some things on the webpage that are about professional development, and I will tell you that we have sort of an interesting thing happen here in North Carolina. Almost a year ago now, we got brand new web pages. We had been using what was called Wikispaces before, that we had materials on for teachers posted statewide, but then Wikispaces went out of business, and so we now have Google Sites. And so we got the opportunity to move over all the things that we were using from the old Wikispaces to our new Google Sites. And we really want to talk to you today about what professional development you would like to see on this website linked as we continue to move things over and think about what would be best to have here for you. So under professional development, we have the Introduction to LinguaFolio Canvas course. And we told you that those online training modules, there are 7 of them, were originally created in North Carolina and are now shared nationally. And so those LinguaFolio training resources are on the Necessful website, as you see here. There are 7 modules, and you see what the names of them are there. And within the Canvas course, they lay out this way. There are, again, 7 modules, and we actually have added an 8th one that is connecting LinguaFolio to the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System. But we have Module 1, which is an overview of what is LinguaFolio. Module 2 is building your own LinguaFolio. Module 3 is about reflective learning and teaching in an autonomous environment. Module 4 is about developing LinguaFolio-like activities in your classroom to go with your daily lessons and thematic units. Module 5 is about the importance of interculturality, or how culture is used appropriately in language. Module 6 is about assessing language performance. And Module 7 is about the implementation timeline and setting goals for LinguaFolio in your classroom. And so then, like I said, there's a Module 8 as well that we've added. So that's available in the Intro to LinguaFolio course. And Sally can jump in to add some details to this too, because on the next page, we kind of talk about what currently is available in the Canvas course that's Intro to LinguaFolio, but we are going to be adding to that. So Sally, do you want to talk about the work you've done with that so far?
Yeah, we have had a couple of cohorts working on this LinguaFolio, Introduction to LinguaFolio through Canvas. But with the new opportunities that we are offering with the sponsorships, we are looking for making some improvements and adapting some of the content that we have in this course. But currently it's available, and teachers access, we're going to see in the next slide that you can sign up, and we are going to do it manually. We're going to give you access to the course. But then the way to access is when you go to my NC Cloud, myncedcloud.org, and you access your Power School, your nieces, or Power Teacher, you will see the Canvas logo that is blue, the one for NCDPI, because some of the districts also purchase Canvas and their logo is a red logo. So if you sign up using this bit.ly/canvaslf, then you will have later, maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, you will receive an email that says you have been enrolled in this class. And once you access your MyNC Cloud and click on Canvas, you will be prompted to create your account and you will see the course in your dashboard. So this is available. Some of you are interested in learning more about this. We can enroll you if you sign up today, and you will have some time to complete this. but be mindful that we are changing this and making it, the goal is that we are going to offer this through the repositories, or maybe we have it on TNL, or now, what is the name now, Anne-Marie?
It's just this the online learning, the Pearson system, I believe.
Yes.
But yes, it's a statewide system.
Okay, it used to be called TNL, but then you will have access and you won't need to sign up and wait for an email. You will just go ahead, click on the course ID number, and you will be able to complete it. But it's available. If you want to sign up, just feel free to do it. If you have any questions, just send me an email. Or if after a week you haven't received this notification that you are enrolled, then just send me an email and we'll check that that is working. And we have more information about professional development. I was mentioning our idea of making changes with Canvas, with this course that we have available that is currently based on enrollment, but we want to offer this through Canvas Commons and NISE's home base, so you don't depend on being logged in and enroll in the course.
So in addition, we have some other materials of training that we could post on the website, and so we want to talk to you about those materials and see if those are some things that you'd like to see made available on the new website. We would obviously have that link to the self-paced Canvas course when it's available, like Sally talked about. We also have some PD kits, or professional development kits, that are collections of slides, handouts, and activities for 1 hour and 3 hour trainings with LinguaFolio. And there's specifically 1 hour training for teachers, a 1 hour training for administrators, a 3 hour training for teachers, and a 3 hour training for administrators. In addition, we have teacher videos about classroom implementation. And we specifically have teachers from different environments like dual language immersion, or DLI, ESL classrooms, and world language classrooms. And those videos are anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. And it's literally a teacher talking about how they implement LinguaFolio, or implement some component of LinguaFolio in their classrooms, and how their students first reacted and what they learned from that. A lot of those were taken when we had a LinguaFolio carousel event when we were launching one year. And then there might be other things that you could think of that would be good for us to post here as professional development or training materials for LinguaFolio. So in thinking about that, we have, of course, a poll question for you. What kind of LinguaFolio professional development do you want to be available on the web page? And then again, this is, check all that apply. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll question so you can give us some feedback about what you'd like to see available for training on the website. All right, looks like about half of you have voted. Go ahead and get your vote in about what you'd like to see for professional development on the website that you could have access to. Take another 10 seconds. All right, thank you for sharing that. Based on what you said, here it is. It looks like 80% of you really want to see those teacher videos, so that is something we will put back up soon and post for you. It also looks like over half of you would like to see the instructions for the self-paced Canvas course enrollment as soon as they're available, as well as the Canvas Commons course to adapt for local use. So we'll try to put that up as soon as we can, although that may take us a little bit longer. And about 40% want to see the PD kits to do those 1 hour or 3 hour trainings locally. So we will take a look at that. We also had 1 or 2 people who said there was another idea they're going to type in the questions box. So I will look for that soon. All right, great. So next up is something we want to share with you, Sally.
Yes, so we are moving to something really exciting. Based on the feedback we received from the 2 cohorts in the pilot, we decided to create the LinguaFolio Cafe, and we're going to have this opportunity for all participants, all users or LFO for NC, to get together and share ideas and questions about the use of LinguaFolio. What is happening? Are you having difficulties creating the account? Are you having difficulties? But you solved that because you talked to the LFO support team. So you share that, and what happened? What was the process? Are you working on assigning some of the can do statements, and how are your students reacting to this? Sometimes we believe that because we are using more technology, they will be more motivated to use it, but how is in reality? What is happening in your classroom as you implement LFO? So we want to open this, and we thought about some possible dates to have the first LinguaFolio Cafe this year, and we have Tuesday, October 29, Wednesday, October the 30th, Thursday, November 14th, Tuesday, December the 3rd, and Wednesday, December the 4th. And what we want to do is we're going to have 1 hour of an online webinar, but it's going to be very structure is not going to be very organized, like we're going to have a speaker for an hour. We just want to have something very specific that has been for example, a common question among all the participants, and then the rest of the time will be you participating, talking, sharing what you are doing with LinguaFolio. So we thought that this could be the frame that we have, the time frame between 3 to 6. So we're gonna open a poll because we want to hear from you what you think will work best for you. So which possible day will be the first one to open the LinguaFolio Cafe would be our first poll. So what day do you think will work best for you? And you can select as many as you want. We're trying to collect some information. Last week, during the first broadcast of the webinar, we had some input. So if you can enter today, which days would be best for you? And we had a lot of piloters or pilot participants that were really excited about this. We had sections sharing now what they were doing, but they said we really want more time in which we can share what we're doing. So we're really excited about this opportunity. So I see some of you are voting. So please select the dates that you think will be a good day to start this opportunity. Be prepared to share. That will give you some time to check the tutorials, to start creating your teacher account, maybe create your own student account so you can see how the platform functions. And then maybe you have your plan of implementation and you're ready to share this with other educators in the state. So I see most of you have voted, so we can wait just a few more seconds. And then we close the poll. Okay, great. So thank you. We see, okay, December the 3rd, I guess is because you want to have that plan already. You want to be familiar. Maybe some of you are thinking about completing the introduction to LinguaFolio that we currently have. So that's great. Okay, thank you. And we have another poll that is related to the LinguaFolio Cafe, and it's about the time. What could be a good time for you to participate in this LinguaFolio Cafe? So we have different frame times. We have 3 to 4, 3:30 to 4:30, 4 to 5, 4:30 to 5:30, or 5 to 6. So we know it should be something after school, but then what time would be better for you if you are going to be part of this? And we usually offer our online sessions in 2 different days, 2 different times. So if you cannot join one day, then possibly the following option is something better for you. So select as many options as you think will fit. We know by 3 p.m. we're closing school. We are getting all the kids, the school buses are leaving, so maybe for some of you it's a little difficult, but maybe later during the afternoon you can join. And we're planning on recording these sessions, but the beauty of this is participation and collaboration. So it's better if you are able to be there so you can share and also ask all the questions, and instead of just listening to the recording, although we're going to offer that option as well. So I see, okay, most of the people voted, so I think we can close the poll. We're running out of time, so good. Okay, 4 to 5. Okay, that's been one of the options that we had last week. Okay, so we're gonna keep this information, and once we have the dates for the first LinguaFolio Cafe, we're gonna share more information on our website, and you will see and have the links so you can sign up and all the information that we're going to share about this opportunity. But we're really excited. I don't know if we have someone in the audience that was part of the pilot and want to share something, how these sections where they share out was something really important for them. Let me see. Okay. So let's continue. And sponsorships. So ESL and Title III at the department, we have been able to offer sponsorships to educators since 2018-2019, the last school year. And we started with only ESL teachers, but then we were able to offer this to world language teachers. And this is, for this year, we continue with these opportunities, and we're really excited because we have some NCDPI consultants as project leads, and Marie is one of those project leads, so I want to invite her to talk about the project that she's leading for a couple of offerings that we had this year, one to participate in Flank, the fall conference, and ACTFL.
Yes, thank you. Through these Title III ESL sponsorships, there are going to be over 20 North Carolina teachers attending either the Flank Conference in later October or the ACTFL convention in Washington, D.C. in November. And so as part of the sponsorship and the coverage of, for example, the conference registration fees and travel and lodging and so forth, the recipients of these scholarships give back by helping us with these projects. And so our purpose in these projects is to create instructional support tools for language programs. And for the Flank and ACTFL sponsorships, we have 3 different projects to choose from, but the one I'm going to share with you today is, of course, the one on LinguaFolio. So project 3 is the LinguaFolio online training project, and this is where we're going to ask the recipients to make a video and create an activity on classroom implementation of LinguaFolio that we can add to one of those modules in the Introduction to LinguaFolio Canvas course. So it'll be a really hands-on kind of thing where you're hearing from a teacher in a video about how they're implementing LinguaFolio. There'll be an activity that'll become part of that course's work. So that you can, as a teacher taking that self-paced course, go ahead and learn from that in the module that it's placed in and continue your learning about LinguaFolio and how you can use it as an instructor. So that's what's coming up. And I notice our time, and we are right at the end of our webinar, so we're right on time. The last thing we wanted to share with you is the NC LinguaFolio Listserv. So I know we're together today, and that's great, but we want to make sure you stay informed about LinguaFolio, whether you're just now learning about it or if you've been implementing it for some period of time or somewhere in between. And so we do have an NC LinguaFolio Listserv that anyone can sign up for. It has announcements about LinguaFolio, so there'll be an announcement, for example, when the self-paced Canvas course is available. There'll be an announcement when we have our LFO access form so that you can fill it out and get your join code, that sort of thing. We do also release periodic newsletters and articles on the NC LinguaFolio Listserv and provide updates about professional development and other opportunities for teachers, particularly related to using LinguaFolio in their classroom. The good news is with the NC LinguaFolio Listserv, your email address will automatically be added by attending this broadcast. So when we look through the materials from this broadcast, we'll make sure all of your email addresses are added to that. But if you would like to sign up for other NCDPI listservs, there's one for teachers of English learners, there's one for world language instructors, and there are actually dozens of others that cover other instructional areas or subject areas and things. You can go to the NCDPI sign up for updates page, and we've got a bit.ly link there, bit.ly/NCDPI updates that you can use to sign up for other updates.
And I'm sharing the link in the chat so everyone has it, and it will prompt the page from the NCDPI, and you will just need to enter the email and then select the listservs. And I would recommend that you select the teachers of English learners and LinguaFolio or world languages, because we are going to be sharing more opportunities, not only instructional strategies and all what we're doing with LinguaFolio, but also the sponsorships during the spring. So if you didn't have the information before to participate in Flank and ACTFL and apply for these sponsorships, then you will get the information and be able to participate in future opportunities during the spring. So we recommend that you just click there, log in, you need to enter your email, and don't select all the newsletters. Sometimes we get excited that we have access to all the content areas and the different newsletters that we receive, but some of the newsletters are shared monthly or quarterly, but some share information weekly. So if you sign up for all of them, it's going to be a lot of emails from us, which is really good information, but we don't want you to miss the most important part, that is with the NC LinguaFolio and teachers of English learners and world languages, of course.
All right, well, we're actually at the end of our webinar. The last thing we have is any other remaining questions. So we're looking at the questions box to see if you have anything else to ask. Just a quick reminder, we will be posting this information that you've seen today, our slides and recording of this broadcast, on the World Language Webinar information page. It does take us sometimes about a week to post everything, so please be patient with that. We'll try to get up as soon as we can so that you have access to it. One thing we've also set up the system to do is that the go-to system will send you a follow-up email. You heard earlier on, if you participated today in the live broadcast, you're going to get an email saying that this was a 2-hour webinar, the date and so forth, and a certificate, which you need to keep for your records if you want to get professional development credit for. It also will have a link in that email about the World Language Webinar Series page that you can get these materials from when you need to. If you're listening to this because you weren't able to attend in the live broadcast, know that there's also a follow-up email for folks like that. And again, it has a link to the webinar series information page where information is posted so that you can get those details.
Yeah, and we had some emails from participants last week. And if you are really interested in using LFO for NC with your students, we are going to share on our website the information on how you can sign up, because some of them were registering using the link, and then when they were required to enter the join code, they didn't have one. And then they were prompted to the section where they have to pay the $2 per student account that they create. And we have already said that NC is free, LinguaFolio, LFO for NC is free, so you will not have to pay for your accounts. So just be patient, and we're going to add those links to the page, to the website, so you can access and create your accounts. So for now, we would recommend that you go and check the website again, get familiar with the materials. If you're interested in using one of the specific formats, the Word documents or PDFs, get familiar with those materials. If you want to go straight to the LFO for NC, we still recommend you to check the other materials. So once you check the interface and you are in the platform, you know what you're looking for, because it's going to look a little different, and the way you select the can do statements and everything is going to look a little different. So for now, just get familiar with that, and we're going to share the join codes as soon as possible via a Google form in which you will sign up, so we will know that you're interested in using this format of LinguaFolio.
Great. Well, I don't see any questions right now, so we want to thank you for joining us today and wish you a great evening. We'll go ahead and stop our recording. If you do still have a question, feel free to stay on, but